Welcome in, everyone. Thank you, Gladys, for being my perfect segue into our warm welcome. So excited to get started with everybody. We have 120 participants registered in this PDU, which just means that we're going to learn so much from everybody. There's so much experience and expertise in the room. This is going to be so much fun. Right. You are still welcome to add some emojis into the conversation. Ooh, wow. I'm scrolling through and I'll show you what I'm doing in a second. I just saw a skull. Thank you, Tracy. So I am in a chat bot right now and I've just been copying and pasting each of your emojis. And I said, hey, please write a 2-sentence summary based on these emojis on how teachers are perceiving AI. And I haven't really done this yet, so I'm going to see what it makes a story out of based on these emojis. Let's see what Raina says. Let's see. Oh, that's interesting. Participants have a wide range of perceptions about AI, from excitement and amazement to confusion and uncertainty. Some find it fascinating and helpful, while others are wary and skeptical. Ooh, cool. Okay. Can you write a list of 10 summary responses based on these emojis in Spanish? Ooh, awesome. And then my last one is going to say, can you write a 3-act Shakespearean play in iambic pentameter based on these emojis? Ooh, cool. Ooh, they even gave characters. That's kind of funny. A skeptic, a believer. Ooh, there's a character for AI entity. Okay, so that's just a quick warm up to kind of show you how you can gather a lot of student responses, bring a class together in an inclusive welcome, and generate kind of like a summary on how everybody's feeling just by using emojis. Didn't really even need words, but really cool to just see how AI can take images and text and generate things in the moment. So thank you for participating in our inclusive welcome. My name is Kaylee Paraccia. I am our middle school digital coach and also leading the work with AI in DPS. During this process, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at any time. I'm a former middle school language arts and social studies teacher. I've been in this role for 3 years. I'm also doing my doctoral work at DU around AI and instruction. So just love connecting with people about AI. Any question is not too big or small. Please don't hesitate to reach out. So I'm on the DPS EdTech team under the larger umbrella of DPS STEAM. So we'll be referencing that a lot through our professional learnings. And we also, if you didn't know this, on the top of this slide, it says find your school's digital coach here. If you click this top link, you can have access to every school's in the district, tells you what collaborative they're in and who your EdTech digital coach is. So if at any point during this PDU you feel overwhelmed, you want myself or somebody on our EdTech team to pop in and support you, please don't hesitate to reach out to anybody on our team. And here is our team. And sorry about that. We have an amazing team and some of them are here today. Would some of you like to come over the mic and introduce yourselves? Go ahead,
Hey,
Peter.
I'm Peter Douglas. I'm an EdTech specialist, so I support all these wonderful coaches on our team.
Hi, I'm Luke Mund. I'm the manager of educational technology. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hi, I'm Emily Dixon. I am one of the EdTech digital coaches for elementary collaboratives 1, 4, and 6.
And I'm Billy Sayers, Director of STEAM. Just excited to see all this learning going on. Sorry, Dino, I did not mean to cut you off.
Hi, I'm Brian Dino. I support the K-8s and elementary collabs 3 and 5.
Brian Dino is also the best conjurer on the north side of Denver if you're ever looking for an entertainer for a child's birthday party or a digital citizen event, citizenship event. But thank you to all the teammates who are here. They'll be helping out in the chat box. We also have a Q&A doc, and I'm just going to point everybody back up to that. Pinned at the top of our chat is a link to our slide deck, and I'll drop that link again. And we also have a link to our resource hub. And we'll go through that in a moment, but if you're looking for any of these links that I'm looking at right now, that's where you can find them. And before we get started with any more learning, we're going to get started with the land acknowledgement. Recognizing DPS commitments to no justice, no peace, we, the DPS educational community, place our minds and bodies in this space while acknowledging Indigenous relatives who have lived in and cared for this ancient land from time immemorial. We acknowledge the close relationship that Arapaho, Cheyenne, Southern Ute, and Ute Mountain Ute, natives of other tribal nations continue to have with the waters, plants, and all moving things that call this land home. We pledge our respect for those enduring Indigenous connections to the place we now call Colorado. And this land acknowledgement was written in collaboration with Dr. G. Tinker of the Osage Nation. He's also a professor at DU. And to carry this land acknowledgement a little further throughout our learnings in this PDU, they're going to be largely grounded in Indigenous protocol and perspectives. So last spring, I was able to read this text where hundreds of Indigenous educators, tech developers, community members came together on the island of Oahu, and they just really hammered out what does it mean for Indigenous peoples in the age of AI, and how can we embrace this and not just have a new form of colonization. So really, it's a lot of fun to think about how to counter the white supremacy that we largely see in technology today and in education, and really grounding it in the voices of Indigenous peoples and Black women are really a guiding force of this PDU. So we'll get started with one of their quotes from that text, and it says, "What is a good way? A good way is the Lakota way of talking about ethical protocols. Lakota decision-making processes, as well as many Indigenous decision-making processes, embed ethics that look 7 generations ahead. When this concept is applied to AI, 7 generations means that protocols outlined here are a way to plan for not just the AI of tomorrow, but for 7 generations of AI into the future. I'm not asking that you think of the computer as sacred, but to consider at which point one affords respect to materials or objects or non-humans outside of oneself. It's necessary to identify how all of those, both human and non-human, are affected by what is made, and to take responsibility for those it affects." And so we're looking at artificial intelligence today, and there's a lot of conversations around, will it replace us as human beings? Will it replace us as educators? What does this mean for the future of our students, our children? And I just really like grounding this first session in the idea of 7 generations. And we're really taking a cautious, safe, ethical approach in DPS, and really ensuring that our instruction is aligned with what we know is high quality, and that AI is not going to change that. And just thinking about 7 generations in the future, our students that enter into DPS this year in 2024 will be graduating in 2036 and retiring in 2035. So the decisions that we are making today are going to be impacting generations of students in the future of DPS, but also our students will be parents of future students. So really thinking how this learning is going to impact generations of students really draws kind of like a introspective point to make sure that we're doing this responsibly. And so today we have our 4 pillars for professional learning to ensure that we have safe and welcoming spaces, that our assessment is informed through specialized instruction, that we have high quality instructional materials in all of our classrooms, and that we offer all of our staff continued professional learning. And I really think this PDU is geared at those last 2, the high quality instructional materials and continued professional learning. Today we're going to focus on forming just a foundational understanding of what AI is, what our DPS instructional priorities are, and AI policies. Then we're going to have some time to engage in self-reflection and chat with other people around the current state of AI use and instruction. And you'll also just explore different ethical, equitable, and effective pathways for integrating AI into your professional practice. And we're going to be getting started really slow today. So if you have any questions, just wanted to point out that we have people in the chat box to answer, and we can also go into breakout rooms if you need help getting logged in or any one-on-one support. And our culturally responsive mindsets that we're focusing on today are my responsibility and self. So for self, we're really asking you to think about how you're adapting your role in the classroom and how you're facilitating learning as a result of this work today, really uncovering your biases and assumptions in line with technology and instruction, and just thinking about how we can shift our role. And then for my responsibility, we're going to engage in dialogue with other educators today, and just start building relationships around AI. We're all early adopters with this technology. None of us are experts, and we're all here to learn from each other. And please, like, no question is too big or small. Put it in the chat box if you have any questions. And you're going to be hearing from one another today and also some other educators from around the country just to hear what the general conversation around AI is in the education field. So we did our inclusive welcome. We're going to go through some PDU housekeeping over the next few minutes. Then we'll talk about AI policy and ethics. We'll do an overview of AI. We'll get started in introductions to Magic School. So we'll log in, some of you for the first time. And then we'll look at something called prompt engineering. We'll look at Google Translate for language supports, just because I know that's a hot topic for a lot of you guys in the first few weeks of school. And then we'll take a look at what you personally want to get out of this PDU and through your relationship with AI. We'll have some time for Q&A and then an intentional close. So first thing, if at any point you are looking for a link, we have this PDU resource hub. It looks like we have a lot of people in there. So in this resource hub, each module will have the links that we're looking at today. So you don't feel like you have to click through the deck, look through the chat box. All the links that we need are here, including the slide deck. And then also our Q&A doc. So if at any point you have a question, please feel free to drop your name, question, and answer in this doc. And then we'll pull that doc up at the end of our session, and we'll use that to kind of guide our Q&A. But also, at any point, please drop your questions in the chat box. We're happy to help and answer them there too. So who's in our PDU? We currently have 66 schools participating, and shout out to Schenck Elementary and South High School for having our top enrollment numbers. But it's really cool to see people that have multiple participants in the school building, because what we found in our last PDU session in the spring is that a lot of people just went to their high schools and their school buildings and wanted to talk to their teams about this. And when you have other people in your building that you're able to chat and try things out with, it's a lot of fun. So I encourage, if you see anybody from your school in this PDU, start like having some face-to-face interactions after this session. So 66 total schools, and then also a wide range of collaborative representation. Love seeing an ECE representative in here. And also shout out to High School Collaborative 1, once again, for having our biggest representation. We also have so many different instructional areas of expertise in this PDU. So we're really going to try by our third session to start intentionally creating small groups. So if there's a lot of literacy teachers or a lot of elementary math teachers or mild mod sped literacy teachers, we can start to group you guys based on how you want to engage with AI. So just know that we have a wide range of teachers in this room. So it'll be a great conversation, and there is no really subject area expertise that you need in order to engage in this PDU either. Also, so many years of education in here. Almost half of us have over 15 years already down in the education field. So really cool to see lots of experience in this room. And then last, some fun results from our perceptions around AI. This first one is, I'm aware of copyright implications and data privacy. So most of you guys look like you're agreeing, but we still have some people in that strongly disagree area. So you're not alone if you're coming into this not really knowing anything about that. That's what you're here to learn. Also, not everybody's comfortable using AI tools to support your planning. So again, you're not alone. Not a lot of you use AI in your instruction regularly. But a lot of you do think that AI is a valuable tool for students in their future careers. And then some of you are using AI for feedback on your lesson planning, but it looks like we have a few people that are looking to grow in that area as well. And I think just the overall positive perception around how we can see AI complementing teaching and our overall longevity in this profession. So that's what this one is. Just like I feel like it can positively impact me as an educator. The last one I wanted to point out is I'm aware of DPS's AI policies and recommended practices. So you are not alone. If you have not yet read through our AI policy, our AI handbook, again, we're here to point out those resources to you today. For our PDU grading, we have 3 categories in the Schoology gradebook. All of the assignments will be pushed through Schoology. Attendance is 5%. If you can't make our live sessions, they will be recorded and put in through an ed puzzle, and you can asynchronously get your attendance credit through that. We also have 10% being coursework, so discussion posts, the pre and post survey that some of you filled out already. There's going to be some reflection assignments in each module. And then our last category is 85% for the final portfolio. So you need a final presentation, 2 peer reviews, and a completed survey to get that full 85%. And also just wanted to point out, each of the assignments in Schoology will help you work towards your final PDU portfolio. So it's not like it's going to be a gotcha at the end. We'll be working towards it this entire PDU. And so here's our PDU calendar. If you're here today, awesome. You somehow got the message to show up. Our next live session will be September 23rd. Then we have October 14th and then November 18th. And then we'll be doing final PDU portfolios those first 2 weeks of December. And all of your materials will be due the 16th of December. So this is going to be 3 DCTA credits, which is 45 total hours of learning. And we also will be looking for a date in the next few weeks to do an in-person session for any people that feel like they need some extra support with just AI in general and feeling comfortable in this PDU. So if you're looking for an in-person session, stay posted. I'll try to find some time for us all to connect during that time. So we're going to take a look then at our survey. If you haven't done the survey already, in the both in the resource hub and in the slide deck, you can click here and see the survey itself. We've had a lot of people fill it out, but really this is non-evaluative. It's just asking like, where do you want to grow in your instruction and your AI literacy? And we're really just looking for growth. So coming in, you don't have to come in as the strongest teacher, but if there's 1 or 2 indicators that you're looking to grow in, oh, thank you for letting me know that, Janet. We can totally rethink that October 14th day. Thank you. And Cheryl, thank you. Yes. Amazing. Thank you for pointing that out. We are full year employees in central office, so sorry. Also, part of that survey asks, would you like a physical copy of the textbook? We've been doing our best. Our EdTech team is so amazing doing our rounds, dropping off books at people's schools. If you indicated that you want a textbook, just hang tight. We're going to be doing them throughout the week. But if you want a digital copy, that is available through our Schoology course as well. So if you want a physical copy, make sure that you fill out the survey and let us know. And then last, just reminders about the PDU final portfolio requirements. You'll need to do a final presentation, and then we'll do some peer evaluations. So you'll coordinate those peer evaluations in small groups. So if there's like 4 people in your school building that you want to do an in-person peer review with, totally fine with that. Or we can set up virtual meetings through people across different buildings if need be as well. But more information on that to come, but we'll be wrapping that up by Monday, December 16th. All right, so before I keep moving on into AI ethics and policy, any questions about our PDU in general? Go ahead, Julie.
Just kidding.
Awesome joke. Okay. All right. Wait time. All right. So we're going to go over some AI policies and ethical considerations. And we're really just starting in our U.S. Department of Education's AI Bill of Rights. And it's really like 75-page guidance. But the most fruitful thing to come from that are their 5 pillars to consider, being safe and effective systems, which the 2 tools that we recommend in this PDU have DPA signed with our district and are safe to use for all ages. They make sure that data privacy is protected, and we're going to talk a lot today about protecting your data and students' data. Something called algorithmic discrimination protections. Throughout the PDU, we're going to talk about different ways about algorithmic bias and how to have a critical lens in approaching that. And then every time you use AI, there should be some sort of notice and explanation letting you know that AI is in use. And last, you should always be able to have a human alternative. So if you ever want to get out of using an AI bot, you should always be able to just have your human alternative. Okay, and then also they recommend just always keeping humans in the loop. There's a lot of fear that teachers will be replaced by robots, but the U.S. Department of Education has an acronym ACE, Always Center Educators, and to ensure that you are the ones that are the experts being consulted ultimately. So if you click any of those images, you can see that larger pictures of them if you wanted to use them for your own slides. But that first one really just shows us as educators, we're the ones always doing the teaching. We're the ones always preparing for and reflecting on how that lesson went. And then last, you're the one that's designing, selecting, and ultimately bringing that learning into the classroom. So as long as you're centering yourself in all those processes, you can ensure that AI is not going to be replacing you in any way. And I really, really liked the NEA's principles for use of AI in education, and we're going to have a few readings in different chapters from this report. If you wanted to access the full report, just for some light reading, you can click on that image and it'll take, or that link right there, and it'll take you to the entire policy statement. But just seeing these 5 bullet points that they use as pillars for AI and instruction is really helpful just to think like, am I doing this right? So first, you're the center of education. Second, we're using evidence-based AI technology to enhance educational experience. We're not just trying out random AI tools and seeing if they work. We're making sure that we're having an ethical development and like use of AI technology and strong data protection privacy practices at the forefront of everything we do. We're making sure that all of our students have equitable access. And last, just ongoing education, not only for our adult learners, but our student learners as well. So we have an AI handbook. Part of Module 1 is going through this handbook. You can access it by clicking the link in our resource hub or in this slide deck. I don't want to go through this page by page, but just pointing out that within the handbook, we have our DPS AI employee policy. but you can also access that through our board docs link. But just knowing that our Department of Technology, or DOTS, has come out with a DPS employee-facing AI policy as just a foundational groundwork of where to get started with appropriate AI use. And in the blue box in the handbook, it's really cool to just see some guiding questions to ask yourself as you're starting to implement these tools in your classroom, just as a kind of check, and your own ethical protocols. But we also have the teacher-facing side of this AI employee policy. And this is really what it means for you as a teacher, and how to make sure that you're living up to the values of our DPS employee AI policy. So the first one is safeguarding student data. And that's really important because AI has tremendous capabilities for data analysis. You can input 30 student essays from your Illuminate unit interim, and have AI grade each one, provide individualized feedback, and design your lesson for the next day based on how students performed. But we want to make sure that student names, ID numbers, birthdays, email addresses, genders, really any of these personal identifying information points are kept out of AI systems. So another example would be AI is amazing for differentiating lesson planning. So you could take a kiddo's IEP accommodations and put it into a tool and have it adjust your lesson to support that kiddo's IEP. But we want to make sure that we're only using the text of accommodations. We don't want any of the student identifying information in there, or else we will be putting student information into these AI systems. We also want to be able to critique AI bias. So AI is built on biased algorithms and data sets that are reflective of the society of the people that are building them. So if we're using all of the information on the internet to inform our data, and our outputs of our AI, then we're going to see some misinformation, some unethical content, and we really need to be critical users of AI to ensure that we're not bringing any of that misinformation or inappropriate, racist, sexist, homophobic content into the real world. Next one is following age restrictions. The two tools that we use in this PDU are good for all ages, but just be aware that there are some tools that are 13 and 18 plus. The fourth one is mitigating harm. The best way to mitigate harm is through your own AI literacy and student AI literacy. We've found that students are way less likely to plagiarize with AI if they know how to use it to support their learning. And they're way less likely to use it for harm, or malintent purposes if they understand the ethical consequences of it. We also want to make sure that we're reporting tools on ATM, and that's for your administrator to worry about. And then also check for reliability. We'll talk today about how AI can hallucinate and give misinformation. You need to make sure that you are using your lens as an expert educator, and making sure that everything is accurate, relevant, and ethical in terms of what we consider to be high quality instruction in our classroom. You're the ultimate judge of what gets brought into the real world. We also have this overall topic that I think everybody has something to say about. So I want to open up the chat box. How do you address academic integrity in your classroom space? And how are you seeing this adapting in the age of AI? We're looking for our educators to start shifting their mindset in terms of what is plagiarism. Not seeing plagiarism as a yes or no binary, like you cheated, you didn't cheat, but more as a spectrum. To what extent did you use technology to support your learning? So at the top of this spectrum is mostly bot created, and at the bottom of the spectrum is mostly student created. And I think I encourage you to use this graphic with students to kind of work them through that conversation of how much did you use technology for your final product? Where do you consider the line for cheating? how can you have a more student-centered like approach to your final product and really take the robot out of your work? So would love to hear in the chat bot, like, have you addressed AI? Or come over the mic. Go ahead, Julie, if you want to start us off. Or Richard, if you want to get us started.
Well, thank you very much. Well, I've only been working with this for a little while, but my feelings when I look at these different levels is that I think that AI, if you use it right and you understand the new paradigm of thinking, this is an incredibly powerful tool for those kids that tend not to engage whatsoever. I would much rather have a young person who never turns anything in get onto an AI and ask it to give me an outline on a particular topic and then turn that in, because that gives me an idea of or ability to sit down and talk with that student and say, okay, what does this mean? The same goes for writing an essay. And this is just the simple part. I would much rather have a student use ChatGPT, for instance, to write an essay and then teach the concepts of plagiarism versus informed information, and sitting them down and saying, now, how would you re-say or retell what you have written down? That's such a powerful tool. I always tell my kids that, you know, if you're going to turn in a paper that's an A quality, you're probably going to have 60% of that citations from other people. So just using AI and using it in that same format as if it was a citation, I think is a very, very powerful tool. That's just at the very top. Then we start going into being able to use it in very specific ways. Now, as far as plagiarism goes, look, people will cheat for the, you know, whenever they can, and they will do it no matter what. It's our job to teach ethics and responsibility. And to be quite honest, you can tell if an AI generated material, at least still now. Now, I already talked to my kids about that. I said, now, how are you going to cheat if you really want to cheat and get past me, who's pretty literate? And they were able to tell me, well, I would go ahead and start out with ChatGPT, and then I would run it through another program that actually dumbs it down. But they still don't understand. It's the structure. It's not so much what is being said and what the vocabulary is. It's the structure. And if you get a feel for how AI produces material, I don't care if it's been dumbed down or it's at the highest level, you know when it's being used. A good example that I give is there's a movie that just came out, and you know that it was written by AI. It was that bad, and it was that obvious. And I'm not going to tell which title it is. I might tell you.
No, you have to. You have to.
I'm not going to tell right now. I will later, though. But you know, that's going to happen more and more, and we're smart enough to be able to tell when something is artificially created. Now, you know, 2 years from now, I might not be able to say that, but right now we can. And I think, as you know, the more we get involved in using this, I think it's, you know, I think that we're able to tune in and see how it's being used. I was using one of the AI, you know, armchair psychology AIs where you can have and what I found is that if I came home from work really pissed off, I would turn on my AI and I would just rant and rave, and I would just unload on this AI, and the AI would give me feedback based upon, and I thought, oh my goodness, what a great tool for kids that are venting to just sit down. You know, it is artificial, and you need to be very clear with kids that this is not, but it's going to give you some guidelines or guideposts that you can follow to maybe deal and work through one of your issues or your problems or your frustrations. So I think it's just amazing what we're able to do with it in the classroom.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your perspective, and just hearing about like how you've started to shift your own perspective of like your role as an educator. It's not to catch people cheating. It's to kind of work them through this new age of digital literacy. I really like what Miranda said. Plagiarism usually happens when students drop deadlines, and we know that like good teaching is a good way to prevent that. Having process-based learning and having multiple opportunities for feedback and checks for understanding really makes it hard to just like whip out a AI generated essay at the very end and act like you have been working on it the whole time. Thank you guys for those of you who put your ideas in the chat. Would love to hear from more of you throughout the session, especially because we're going to still talk about that for a little bit. So I would love to hear your reactions. This is an interesting graphic that just came out about how AI detectors are not that accurate. And there's this article, if you want to click the link, it says AI detection software doesn't work, do this instead. Adam Sparks says the risk of teachers reaching for AI detection as the easy button that they can use when they suspect improper AI use is too high, especially given the aforementioned research showing that these tools will disproportionately flag non-native English speakers' writing. So thinking about if there's a 20% fail rate on AI detection, at the best, that's 1 in 5 kiddos that you might be damaging a relationship with, or you can just have a different approach to having that conversation. And Stanford University did a really interesting study around how non-native English speakers' writing is flagged more because they use more formulaic like sentence structures and vocab, whereas a native English speaker will have a more varied approach to their writing. So we think as a district that AI detectors are pretty problematic, and there's just things you can do instead. One is setting clear classroom policies for academic integrity and AI use, showing them that spectrum, talking to your students and asking them, what would you consider cheating? And having more of a teachable moment approach to this. Also, bring AI into the writing process, show students how to brainstorm with it, get feedback from it, generate sentence variation structures, show them how to use it in the writing to better their writing, not replace their writing. And then have them center their, like, class should be centered on personal reflection. Maybe a student did generate some of their content with AI, but you're asking them to create a quick video reflecting on what they learned from their AI bot that day and how they shifted their learning or their writing based on their interaction with AI. And just explain why you're having students engage in the writing. Again, these are all like normal teaching moves, nothing groundbreaking, but just bringing it back to this is just a new tool for our classroom, and we just need to shift our role a little bit to support our kiddos in this new age. This is a slide that really helps, I think, expand the mindsets of teachers, admin, even students in the classroom. AI is still kind of like a taboo topic that we're not sure if we're allowed to use it. So like, can I even talk about it and admit it? But yes, you can. Because do you consider it cheating if a student goes to a tutor for support, like on the SAT after school? Do you consider it cheating if kiddos brainstorm with a friend or get their learning materials in a language that's not English, or go home and work with a family member after school, or use spell and grammar check, or use a teacher exemplar to guide their end process? No, we don't consider this cheating for anybody. So why would we consider it cheating if a student uses AI for any of these things? All right. So lots about like ethics and what is AI and how to appropriately use it. We haven't even talked about what AI is. And I love seeing all of these like experiences with like Turnitin, and really cool. So we'll just get started on like a basic definition of AI, and wanted to call out that each of these slides, like, please use them with your students, with your colleagues, with your departments. If there are any slides that you want to take with you, like, these are all for you to take. I'm not going to show you this video, but it's a really good easy 5-minute explanation of what is AI. It's illustrated. I think it's great for secondary students even. It goes through just real world examples, considerations and concerns. But AI is just a way for computers to perform tasks that we as humans usually do. So AI is a big umbrella term for all of these things that you've probably had a lot of like experience using in your day-to-day life. So first being like text translation, speech language recognition, object detection. Like I feel like I've rented a car lately because I don't have a new car, but I rented a car and it just kept telling me every time I get close to the median. Just all of these things that we are using in our everyday life are AI, and we're just now starting to see new uses of it in the classroom. So again, AI is machine learning. It is language processing, meaning like translation, classification. It is speech, so it can take what you say and turn it into text, and it can take text and read it aloud for you. It helps you with planning and optimization. It can help you design expert systems and like think about scenarios in the future if like those were implemented. We also have image recognition, machine vision. Peter was talking about the Roomba. Yeah, that is vision recognition and robotics. All of these things are artificial intelligence. And we've had artificial intelligence since the 1950s. So Alan Turing in the 1950s created a machine to start having it think through a human process, thinking that it can make decisions on its own. But really, in the last 5 years, we've seen an explosion of different uses of AI. And that is all because of ChatGPT. But when you think about like Siri in your phone or Alexa or again, Roomba, these are all things that we've started to get used to having in our everyday life. But just within the last few years with ChatGPT, we're starting to see AI as a hot topic because it's now more applicable in the education sphere. So how is AI impacting our lives? We already talked about this, but again, this slide just might be helpful for students. Again, it's in your smartphone, security and surveillance. I think talking about where AI is in all of like every aspect of our life helps students see why they need to be critical of when it's in use. So security and surveillance, for example, we know that camera systems are not able to visually analyze people of color's faces as well as they are with white people's faces. They often misgender women of color. So thinking about the accuracy in these systems and having like that lead to implications in law enforcement or even going through like security at customs in an airport. It's really interesting to think about like who are creating these technologies for all of us and is everybody included in them. Also, talking to students how social media uses AI can be a week's worth of lessons, if not a month. I think talking about like forced advertisements, who comes up in their feed, why their ex-boyfriend's always in the top of their stories. That is an algorithmic design that they know they're going to get more clicks for that. So again, all of these things are in our lives, and I think taking them one by one is a great way to just start to unpack it for students. So we're going to go into breakout rooms shortly. And the way you can go into breakout rooms, that it should pop up in your screen, but if not, in the little tiny corner of your Google Meet, there's a square, triangle, circle icon. We're just going to chat for a few minutes, introducing one another to like who we are, our school again, our role, and then like how do you use AI? Do you use it personally? Do you use it professionally? Again, this is not a taboo topic. Start to connect with other people. This is part of our responsibility, just starting to engage and have conversations. The more we talk about it with each other, the more comfortable we are talking about it with our students, and starting to build up a common language. So I'm going to send us into breakout rooms, and we'll take about 4 minutes. And And I think we should be good to go. I'll do 4 minutes. Back, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Awesome. Again, part of our whole purpose of being in this PDU is just having that built shared language to talk about AI with each other, with our students, just so we start to feel more comfortable in that world. And again, these again are really helpful graphics. So what AI is and what AI is not is sometimes really helpful when you have colleagues or students with a really beginning mindset of AI. So breaking it down to the basics, AI is just online in-store shopping. AI is warehouse fulfillment in an Amazon warehouse. It's credit card fraud protection. That's what flags your bank account when they see a $1,200 purchase at Best Buy. It's text-to-speech. It's translation. It's what gets you from point A to point B in your Google Maps. It tells you what the traffic is. And my Google Maps just started asking me for thumbs up, thumbs down, like how was the route? Do you see accidents still? So it's like asking me for data to inform the AI system. But AI in education, it's personalized learning. It's differentiation in seconds. It's helping students persist more because they have that in the moment support that often is the reason why they tap out. They have text to speech, speech to text, so lots of language supports and translation. What AI is not, it's not alive. It's not smarter than us. In fact, it's based on our data and our language. Yes, I will do that for you, Ricardo. It's based on everything that we as humans have created on the internet. So it's not smarter than us. And then also it's says it's not killer robots, but I think us as an ed tech team have just started to accept that they kind of are killer robots because like facial recognition, drone technology. I'm just gonna, yeah, I usually cross it out, but okay, yeah. You guys are scaring me now. It's not only for geniuses. It's not only for people in tech cities. And like, it's for all of us. And the more of us that are engaging in AI, the more of us that are putting data in there, interacting with it, giving it feedback, the more it's going to represent our diverse population. So we want our DPS students interacting with AI so it's reflective of our DPS students. And in terms of education, it's not going to replace you as a teacher. It's not going to solve every problem. It's not just one more thing you need to learn. And it's not just like another computer science topic. It's going to be integrated in all of student learning. So another helpful risk benefit chart to use with kids, colleagues. AI is great for content development. It's great for assessment. It can grade assessment and create assessment. It can personalize learning experiences for students that need differentiated supports. It will help with your creativity and collaboration, and it just makes you an overall more efficient teacher. But what we need to be aware of are its risks. So misinformation and hallucinations. We have like read that AI hallucinates around like 10% of the time, meaning it will come up with just a completely random answer sometimes, especially if there's not a lot of data on that topic. So more nuanced cultural topics like native indigenous language translation, that will actually hallucinate things that it just thinks is correct, which is really damaging when thinking about, the implications that can have on language revitalization for disappearing languages. A lot of people think that it's going to diminish accountability for students, and that really requires our classroom culture to be strong. You can risk your data privacy. You can create an over-reliance on it. And then also there's like societal bias within AI, and we don't want to replicate that in the real world. So I'm going to enact a poll, and you're going to find your poll the same way you went into your breakout room. So I'm going to ask you, if you were an AI robot, what would you most likely perform as your robot task? Are you somebody that would do translation? Are you a robot that would do proofreading and editing? Would you be the person grading assignments? Would you do differentiation techniques? Are you the one creating multimedia content? Are you analyzing data or email generating? CPR, interesting. Good luck, good luck, good luck. Honestly, in the moment, I might ask AI like what the tempo is. I don't know. Can you pick all? No, you can't. Sorry. All right, I'm gonna start showing results. This is interesting. Lots of creatives in here. If you're looking to access the poll, you can go into the triangle, square, circle at the bottom, or some of you guys are just throwing your votes in the chat. Love to see that. But it looks like a lot of y'all are into the multimedia content creation. We have a lot of creatives in here. Some of you would just be good at differentiation. Lots of MLE and SPED support in this room. I love to see that. I don't know why there are so many people into data analysis. That's actually quite shocking. Translation, superheroes. Awesome, cool. So we each be our own little robot. I also think this is a fun little poll. Yes, Julie, yes. I think this is a fun little poll to ask students too, to help them understand like, what can AI do? These are all human tasks, but they just help us with them a little bit better. So thanks for engaging in the poll. And so if you haven't gotten your book yet, it is on the way, but just wanted to ground with this Holly Clark quote. She says, if schools neglect the responsibility to teach students to master essential AI literacy skills, the outcome could be a new digital divide, one that separates those who can think critically about information and those who cannot. Schools and districts have made great strides in providing students with devices and internet access. Now, administrators must also ensure that teachers have the time and resources to dedicate to cultivating the critical thinking habits that will enable students to identify accurate and relevant information. This is a whole new area of digital citizenship that we need to help bring our students into this world responsibly. We can't just assume that they are digital natives with AI. We need to be those responsible guideposts for them for learning how to engage with this technology responsibly. And so we think of this as AI literacy. So AI literacy is a few things. It's one, knowing what AI is and understanding it. The next thing is being able to use AI and apply it in your professional life, personal life. Also, AI ethics, knowing where you stand, where your values align in terms of AI use. And then last, you should be able to evaluate an AI tool. Is this one better or is this one better? Which one works for me personally in this moment? You should be able to have a critical lens of knowing which tools to use. And then also eventually we want our students and even you as teachers to be able to create your own AI chatbots. It sounds hard, it sounds far-fetched, but it's not. And if we aren't the ones creating these tools, then somebody else is creating them for us. And we want to make sure that our students are the ones contributing to the future. So we're going to do a quick breakout chat again and just connecting with other people. What are your concerns about integrating AI into the classroom? And how can we ensure that our students that are retiring in 2085 are set up for success? Remember, like, generations of students are going to be impacted by how we are starting to integrate technology into our classrooms today. And just take some time to talk out your concerns. Don't be embarrassed about them. It's totally natural. And hearing from each other is really helpful in the process. So we're going to go into 3-minute breakout rooms again, just to hear from other people and how you're feeling about AI. All right, so this has mostly been conceptual learning, and now we're going to start to get into hands-on logging into our tool and starting to see how we can engage with AI. So we are going, oh, thanks for the feedback. Seriously. Perfect. Both tools that we are talking about in this PDU, Heather, are available on student Chromebooks, and for all age students, and they're free and fully accessible. All right, so we're going to get into Magic School, which is one of the 2 AI tools we're going to look at in this PDU, not because we think it's necessarily the best tool, but because we're trying to almost be tool agnostic, meaning we're trying to just teach you skills so that you can navigate through any AI tool. But we're starting with 2 tools that we know are safe for our teachers and our students, and also are free and accessible. So we're really just like trying to teach more of skills to access in any tool, but we're going to be doing it through 2 predominant tools, Magic School and Canva. So the first thing that happens when you log into Magic School is that you get these notifications for best practices. It's a pop-up, and I think it's just nice to take a screenshot of. Yes, Nikki, there are, and that is in the handbook, but also maybe Luke or Peter, if you can just chat the tools that we also have available. But when you log into Magic School, I just really appreciate that it has an educator lens. So Magic School was created by a former DSST principal, actually. So he employs mostly educators as well in the programming of this tool. So it really just has an educator first lens. So it tells you to check for bias and accuracy, especially for math content. You need your professional educator lens to make sure that that content is accurate. Please use the 80-20 approach, meaning they say that AI could create 80% of it, but you should be adding the final 20% of your own touches to it. I personally, I don't know what my exact percentage breakdown is, but I kind of flip it. I'd say like 20-80. But again, that's your own balance. Your judgment matters. AI generated content is just a starting point, but we also say like always adhere to your school's curriculum. So you're not needing to create lesson plans because we have DPS curriculum, but maybe you need to take a DPS lesson plan and enhance it to support the specific learners that are in your classroom. Maybe you have half of your classroom are level 1 and 2 speaking learners on the WIDA Access rubric, and you need to take DPS curriculum and modify it for those learners. So you also need to know the limits of AI, especially in Magic School. You're not going to be able to get current events updated through the chat bot. Like if you asked it, what's the status in Gaza right now? It's going to tell you to read the news instead of consulting AI for that because it's not the most up-to-date information. And then last, protect privacy. Do not put students' details or your own personal details in there. Magic School does a great job taking out those details and reminding you not to do that, but that's on you ultimately in the end to keep our privacy safe. All right, so we're going to go into Magic School AI. So if you want to go ahead and go to magicschool.ai, you're going to sign in with your Google login. And I'll show you how to do that here. I'm going to go to magicschool.ai. And in the upper, well, it's loading. In the upper right-hand corner, you can click login or sign up for free. If you click sign up for free, well, mine just did that. It'll take you to your Google SSO. So you'll sign in with Google, you'll click that, and you'll go through your regular DPS login like you would with any of our other secure sign-on systems. I also want to put out there, Luke or Peter, if you want to maybe open up a breakout room, if anybody needs support getting logged in, we'll give you a few minutes to do that, but we can also have a quick breakout room if anybody needs a little extra support getting logged in. When you get in, you'll notice that we have free enterprise access, which is approved for the next 6 months, which is awesome. So we'll kind of look at some really amazing features in Magic School based on our new premium access. So you can see when you get into Magic School, first on the left-hand toolbar is where you're going to be mostly navigating. So you can see you have a few options in that toolbar. It says Magic Tools, and that's where you can go through a dashboard of a bunch of tools, and that's what we're going to look at first. Then you'll see Raina, that's your GPT chatbot. Output history, if you click that, you can see every AI conversation that you've had, so you can pull up past conversations. There's a button that says launch for students. We are going to, in our third module, talk about how to use AI with students. So that's when we'll use launch to students. And then those last two are really interesting. It just like shows the educator like focus of this platform. The love section is just like social media shout outs that all teachers have been giving Magic School over the last year, and just how they're bringing it into their classroom. So you can hear like live teacher stories and see like student work based on what they've used Magic School for. So kind of interesting if you wanted to see how other educators are using it. And then that training piece, I found it pretty useful. I just went through really quick asynchronous like training sessions. If you wanted to learn about more specific tools, I found that to be really fruitful. But we're going to get started looking at Magic School tools. And when you get into Magic School, again, it's super overwhelming looking because there's so many different boxes. But knowing that at the top up here, you can search for whatever tool it is you're looking for. And then you can also see in your tools, next to a tool, there's a little star. And if you hover over it, it says favorite. So if you start to see tools that you like, you can click that star, and it will add it to your top dashboard so you have a little bit more organization. So we're going to get started slow with just one tool, and then I'll give you all time to explore tools on your own. But if you're also like your own independent learner and you're clicking around on yourself, which you probably are, that's totally fine. But I'm going to just get started with a simple tool, professional email. So my name is Kaylee Paraccia. Content to include in the email. Please finish entering in interim data by Friday. Roll out reteach by Monday. And I don't know, email families Tuesday. And this is just if I'm emailing my like content team, just some reminders. All right, that's what I want in my email. Okay, great. So it just generated this email for me. I hope this message finds you well. I wanted to thank you for your hard work and collaboration. As we move forward, please remember to do this by Friday, this by Monday. Okay, that's okay. That's a basic start. But I wanted more. So I'm going to keep engaging with this tool in this little typing bar. And I'm going to say, can you please make this more friendly? Ah, nice. I at least see like a little exclamation mark now. And it's a little bit like more conversational. And so if you're not getting what you like are looking for on that first interaction, re-prompt that tool for what you're looking for. Okay, I asked it to be more friendly. Now, can you translate this to Spanish? Because half of my team are native Spanish speakers. Great, thank you, awesome. So that was the email generation tool. I'm just gonna show you one more tool. And I really, like every year, started out with surveys just to like figure out who my students were and how they preferred to learn. So here you can see you have a 9th grade, you can choose your grade level. You can choose the number of questions. I want 10 questions. And topic of the survey. I just want personal learning preferences. I want open-ended questions to get to know them. Cool. Awesome. Okay, these are pretty basic. I prefer to study in a quiet environment. Okay. I'm halfway there for this. So I'm going to say instead of 1 to 5 scale questions, can you just do multiple choice with different options? And now instead of saying like, how do you prefer this on a scale of 1 to 5? Now it says, where would you prefer to study? How do you prefer to work on groups? So that's just 2 examples of tools. You can look at whatever tool you want over the next 5 minutes. If you get stuck on using it, what I've found is really helpful. In the top part of every tool, there's a little button called exemplar. And if you click it, it will pre-fill it out based on like what might yield a successful response for you. So you can see what other teachers have done with that tool and start to play around with it in that way. But I'm going to give you all 5 minutes to play around in tools. If anybody feels like they need a breakout room, please, please, please let us know. We're happy to help you get logged in. We don't want anybody just like floating around in AI-less space. But we're going to spend 5 minutes right now just looking at a tool of your choice.
Can we ask a question?
Yes, always.
Okay, so do we have to worry as teachers and professionals about editing the AI so it doesn't sound like AI? Like if I put in my stuff for a newsletter and it kind of says, you know, my passion for this is immense, and you know, it kind of sounds a little bit like AI. Do I have to spend my time editing that, or is it fine for me to set, like, I'm sort of wondering from the district's perspective,
Yeah.
how much do I have to make it not sound like AI, because that's another level of work?
I think that one, your AI will start to get to know you and your writing style as you start to talk to it. And you can say like, can you make this sound more like me in a conversational style? But also thinking about that 80-20 balance, I would use AI for like an email generator, say, just to get that basic structure of the content. I might have like 2 windows open, one with my AI generated content and one with the actual email open. And I might like retype it in my own voice, if that makes sense. And then that, to me, that ensures that whatever I'm putting in there, I'm not just indiscriminately copying and pasting. I'm actually kind of going through it in the moment as well before I send it out. Not sure if that completely answered your question, but I hope it helped.
I mean, it does in terms of curating, but just in terms of concern. Are we worried that a parent might say, these feel like AI? And you know, like, I mean, do we have to curate with that in mind? Or is it more like, oh, I want it to be my voice. I want to make sure it's, because I think a lot of us are perfectionists. So I'm not trying to say, oh, we're just going to put it in an AI and that's the end of that. I think a lot of us do extra work, but to what level do we need to worry about that from the perspective of the district, or the concern like, oh, the teachers are using AI?
I don't think you should be concerned at all. I think our messaging is like, we want to help teachers do the thousands of things that they're asked to do in a day, and AI can help them do that. What I think where you're going to start to maybe see concerns with parents, to me, AI helps me open up time for more human connection. And I might not use AI for a family email generator, but I might use it to proofread my family emails. Or I might use it to generate a list of topics that I can include in my newsletter for the week. And I'm not using it as just like that final product, but I'm using it to kind of help me get there. But I totally see what you're asking in terms of like what the district will be mad at. And like, there's really no answer to that, but I think you know how to best connect with your families, and families will know certain things sound like AI if you keep using the same AI tool for the same type of email. So I think trying to find that human balance is like what you're going to start to figure out on your own. People say you need about 10 hours to get comfortable with AI and like bringing it into your practice. And I think it just takes a little bit to know what that balance is for you. Lorena, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Michelle. Didn't mean to cut you off.
Just thank you.
Absolutely. Lorena, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, how do we know if our principal has sent out information that we are using AI?
Awesome. Luke, can you answer that in the chat? Or Luke, do you want to just come over the mic and talk about
Yeah, so I'll say Magic School and Canva are approved for use at every campus across the district. And then I'm going to drop in the link to the academic technology menu, and you can search on there what AI is listed for your school. If it's in the in review tab and your school is listed on the app as like a tag, so if you actually open up the app, then you can use that with parent consent, which is got through registration.
And then we are not able to export things to Google just because like we are taking privacy and data protection into like the highest account with AI, and we just don't have the DPA signed for our Google Drives to talk to Magic School. So yeah, just trying to be as safe as possible, I think, to make sure our district data is not being shared overly an over amount. But you've had a few minutes to play around with the tool. Would love to hear in the chat, or if anybody wants to come over the mic and share their experience. What tool did you look at? Do you find it useful? How might you use it? Go ahead, throw it in the chat box. If anybody wants to raise their hand and come over the mic, would love to hear what your experiences were with using a tool. Go ahead, Adrian.
I used the group work generator. That was pretty cool. Like on like app creators are just learning how to code. So it created a really cool for 3 kids to write pseudocode and do sketches and make like a prototype. It was awesome. Like it timed it, it gave all the time standards, like differentiation, and it was great.
Amazing. And I love the group work generator because it goes beyond just like timekeeper, note taker.
Yeah, they had like a reviewer, like prototyper. Yeah, they were using like the academic language as well. So
awesome. Thank you. Go ahead, Tammy.
Sorry, I just I was going to share, but Tiffany Berry, I want to hear more about what she put into the chat about Rainer writing all of her CLOs. I mean, hello, tell me more.
I actually, for math and literacy, I put in the CL, like the learning goals that they give you on CKLA or whatever, and it writes me a long CKLO. It's beautiful. And it's super easy. I do it for math and literacy.
And especially like if you're an STL even, and like that's a big issue in your coaching, just like helping teachers with the CLO process, just like even breaking that down through a chatbot is really helpful too. I feel like a teacher would much more want to hear and get support from an AI support in CLOs on a day-to-day basis than like reaching out to their coach every time and having to do that. Go ahead, Janet.
And just to add on to the CLO, I'm an interventionist. If you just type in based on, for example, if you need Spanish and you need something specific for Spanish, using the Common Core State Standards, you can literally either just type in CLO, CLOs for phonics, or something very specific, dissecting the Common Core Standards and applying it to that. So those are 2 easy ways: just CLOs for phonics, CLOs for compare contrast. They give you a list, or take bits and pieces of what you specifically want from the Common Core State Standards.
Amazing. And just like how much mental capacity is that like taking off of your shoulders for something that you have to do multiple times a day, especially for elementary school teachers? Amazing. And that also just speaks to, this is an ed specific tool. When you type in the word CLO, it knows it's content language objective. When you type in SLO or IEP, it knows what all these acronyms are because it's an education tool. Did I have one more person raise their hand? Anyone else?
I was just going to chime in, Keely. I was going to say, if your school has a very specific CLO format, you can even put that in Reina. Say, please generate a CLO based on this format, paste it in on, and then put in the standards or whatever the lesson is about.
Amazing. Yeah. And like, I'll show you all in a little bit, like how we can take like DPS recommendations for instruction and put them into the chat bot. Like I'm pulling up the DPS CLO guide now, and I'm really excited about this. Okay, so thank you for exploring some tools. We're going to look way more into tools throughout this session and throughout the PDU, but we're going to kind of shift gears away from tools and look at the chatbot itself and think about this term called prompt engineering. And prompt engineering is all possible because of something called natural language processing. And this is a really recent development in technology that humans and computers are able to talk to each other. Up until the last few years, really coding was zeros and ones. And now with natural language processing, we're able to just use our own written or spoken text, and a computer will understand it, transform it into zeros and ones, and then spit it back out to us in our own language. And so that's what you see in terms of like what filters your emails between spam and advertisements and social. That's what helps translate language. That's your smart assistant that will turn on every time you say, hey, Google, or it'll help you analyze your document and get the most important facts out. So all of these things are operating with 0 and 1 codes, but it's made possible to, like, we're able to communicate with computers now because of natural language processing. So what this looks like, and this kind of helps students understand it a little too, is that it takes a lot of data. Lots and lots of data, like all of the information on the internet, every book ever written, every image created. Well, Shannon, I just need like a quick aside. I feel like we just always, there's like a YouTube video that they just go, hey, Google. And that's like all we say in my family now. Anyway, so it takes all of this data, and like, it's interesting to think about like early AI data sets were like even like old Enron emails because they were sued and all of their information is now public. So like even that is part of the data set. And so what we do is we take all of this information, and through coding, through algorithms, we're able to have our computers understand it and adapt it then into maybe answering a question for you, or analyzing the sentient, or like how it's the mood of it, summarizing it for you, helping you plan and translate. So this is all made possible because of natural language and large language models. So once it gets into the computer system, you'll start to see all of this data starting to connect and find pathways with like between different terms. So thinking about how you as a human make decisions, your own brain thought process, you are making a million connections in a moment to get you to that decision. And that's what AI is doing. It's taking all of the words and all of the information out there and finding what is the most like possible like algorithm and outcome based on what they're asking. So I have all of these words out there, and if somebody's asking for a fluffy animal, out of these 5 words, oh, cat would be the most fluffy. Oh, aardvark would not be very dangerous, but it definitely is an animal. And it starts to find all of these connections into what makes up these words. And that's what is able to like spit back out all this data in an instant for you. And so we're going to start to engage with a large language model through our AI tool, Raina. And we want to, yeah, thank you, Heather. Thank you. Heather, do you want to come over and like say that? I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm just looking, and this is part of what I was trying to do with my unit, is get into talking about how words like black triggered as like 95 spooky. And yes, I guess black cat, or it was pitch black out, but that also triggers ethnicity. Like it's a racial term. And a lot of chatbots that I've looked at will actually flag things. I know that Facebook's used to flag them all the time if anyone would talk about black or white and they happen to also be a black person, it would like give them a couple-day ban because it was saying they were talking about racial terms. So they started coming up with things like saying YT instead of YT, so they could put it into their Facebook and be able to talk about stuff without being banned.
Thank you so much. Like that, I think we're going to talk a lot about algorithmic bias in a few of our next modules, but that is a perfect example of the connections in an English language model rooted in the United States might tag Black as 95% spooky, but maybe somewhere else in the world, it might not have that same like language association breakdown. And that's how bias works. And if we are not aware of it, if we're not able to be critical of it, we're just going to indiscriminately be moving forward with that in our life. So thank you for having that critical lens. We're going to start to do something called prompt engineering, which is the new Google search. It's how you talk to your AI model. And I want you to throw out everything you learned about Google searching out the window, because prompt engineering is very different. You're going to include a lot of information to yield the output you want. You want to give it context. So whenever I start with a chatbot, if I'm doing my teacher lens, I say, I am an 8th grade anti-racist, anti-bias social studies teacher in Southwest Denver, teaching 55% language learners and 40% of students like below reading level. And that's my context. And then I give it a task. I want you to take my curriculum and help modify my lesson for tomorrow based on my student accommodation. And then you give it instructions. Please give this to me in bullet point form in a 60-minute class period. And then those last 2 steps, clarify and refine. Again, like your prompt is not going to be perfect at your first time. You're going to have to keep engaging with the chatbot to get what you want. So we also just have some tips for prompt generation. 1, always ground in your curriculum. We're not using AI to create content. We're using AI to enhance our instruction and modify our already existing curriculum for our students in our classroom. We also want to make sure that you specify the task. So use action verbs, be very specific, include what you want and what you don't want. So a good example would be, hey, I want a seating chart for these 30 students, but I don't want these 4 students to sit next to each other. And you can just include really specifics like that. Specify your context, specify your audience, especially if you're doing like email or newsletter generation. Specify the output. You can have fun with this. You can make a song, you can make a poem. It can be in the tone of Tupac if you want, or it could be in iambic pentameter like Shakespeare. You can tell an AI to be any person, like a role. You can tell AI to be Shakespeare. I want to talk to you like you're Shakespeare, and I'm going to ask you some questions about your life, and you can engage with a chatbot like that. And just again, refine and repeat. Constantly fix your output if you're not getting what you want. So this is kind of like a quick guide of evolution of quality prompts. So like instead of asking who's president, maybe ask who was the president of Mexico in 2021, because it won't necessarily know where you're asking, when you're asking. Just give really specific instructions. Also, here's a quick start guide. If you're like really struggling of like, how do I even engage with a chatbot? Here's some basic sentence stems that you can look at for you and your students. I think it's really nice to say for students to have them do a devil's advocate exercise, especially like middle school on, looking at counterclaims. Expand or explain in step-by-step. Maybe you have a big project and you just want it broken down step by step for a differentiated learner. These are all like really good places to start. And we're going to get started now. So I'm going to model a few of these in Raina. Again, we're going to access our Raina chatbot on the very left-hand side. So we're no longer in our tools. We're now just going into our chatbot. And you can type into Raina in any language you want, and Raina will respond in the language that you have inputted in. And especially, yeah, you can give directions in Spanish as well. So you can, and even our students, our littles, can use this little microphone, and instead of typing, they can just talk into it. So I'll demo a few different things. So the first thing that I'm going to demo is saying, hey, I would like to adjust this lesson for language learners at a level 1 and 2 speaking and writing skill on the WIDA rubric. And I am going to go into my curriculum. I'm going to go into my Amplify curriculum. I'll log in. And whatever curriculum you have, you can go into your curriculum group in Schoology, and they usually have updated links for your curriculum. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to download a printable lesson guide. I'm going to download a PDF of it. And I'm just going to upload it using this little paperclip attachment. I'm going to say upload my PDF. So now I'm using my district curriculum, but I'm just enhancing it. And I want it to be supporting my level 1 and 2 learners.
Sorry, y'all. I think she just hit the wrong button as she was tabbing around.
Oh, Lord.
She should be back in a second. To go back to the languages while she's rejoining, I just dropped in the chat because I asked Raina how many languages does she speak, and these are all the languages she can do, but are not limited to. So because these bots are all built off of lots of different languages, then they can spit out. And I've actually heard from AI engineers that sometimes the AI will teach itself different languages based off of what it can grab off of the internet at what time to answer your questions. So yeah, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm just curious, like, how much can we trust the translation? Like, I don't think I'm going to give a nuanced message and ask it to be translated into something else, but like, does it actually work right? How good does it work these days?
Yeah, so we always say check for reliability, right? And accuracy, and that can be where it's really fault, right? So if I ask it to translate into Ukrainian, it says it can do it, but is it actually? I actually had an ESL teacher, Emily, teacher who came up to me and said that he was translating stuff into Marshallese for his students, and he was doing it for a couple of weeks. And then his students finally came to him and said, we can't understand anything that you're translating for us, so you can just stop. So yes, it's hit or miss with the translations, but it's worth trying. Ask your students.
Yeah, always I would say defer to the native language speakers, constantly ask for feedback. And we also have some guidance around how to make sure you're doing translations appropriately within our district guidelines. And I'm so sorry, I just got exited out of all of my windows. Fun. But so this was what that yielded. It just showed me how I can support my level 1 learners, my level 2 learners. So all I did was I used this paperclip to upload my curriculum, and I just asked the chat, how can I support these learners? I also have a chat that I had already done, and I said, here's my exit ticket. How can I grade all of these student responses that I copied in here? And it graded all of the responses, essay 1, 2, 3 on a score of 8 or on a score of 10 based on the rubric I gave, and it gave feedback to each part of the rubric as well. So your chatbot has so many capabilities, and it's really just starting to talk to it and get comfortable with it. And again, we recommend around 8 to 10 hours is what's going to make you feel comfortable talking with your chatbot. And also knowing that in the very right-hand corner, you have your history. You can pull up any past conversation with your chatbot and it will remember it. I also wanted to show you that you can just access the translate here. So I can say, here's my, sorry. I had to write a Shakespeare play earlier based on the emojis. Now I'm just going to click the action button and click translate, and I'm going to have it translate to Portuguese, and it will translate that for me. So super helpful, especially if like accents and character translation takes a lot of time. Yeah, just wanted to give you all now time to play with your chatbot and just take a look at your curriculum if you have access to it, and just enhance maybe a lesson for tomorrow based on your learning. And we'll answer questions in the chatbot and come over the mic, but I just want to give you like 7 minutes to play with your chatbot on your own. So we'll give you 7 minutes to go ahead and just play around with your chatbot and ask questions if you have them. And thank you, Luke.
Kelly, can you show us how to get back to that curriculum that you found? How do we find that for our school or for district?
That's a great question. You can access your curriculum. So we have something called DPS curriculum groups in Schoology, and I can drop a link to that to the site. So what you do is you go into a Schoology group, and you can access it through just joining with an access code. So say your first grade curriculum and you want to join that group. You can go into Schoology. So I'll log in. And then when you go to your groups, so I'm going to go to the 6th grade literacy curriculum group, for example. When I go to the resources on the very left-hand side, there's updated links for your curriculum resources and assessments. So here is the document for curriculum groups. 10 out of 10 recommend joining them, not only because you have access to the resources, but you also are able to just get updated communications from like your content leads and everything. We're going to spend around 4 more minutes just playing around with our chatbot, refining our prompts if we're not getting what we want. And then we'll come back in about 4 minutes. Again, come over the mic and ask questions if you have any.
This chat is on fire tonight. I'm loving all of the back and forth with everybody sharing ideas. I'm learning so many new things.
Can you copy and paste a lesson plan in the same way you uploaded a PDF? Or can you do a Google Slides the same way you did a PDF? Can you do an image the same way?
Great question. So you can, so I'm in my Google slide deck. I'm going to just go to the file download, and I'm going to download it as a PDF, and you can do the same, like it'll understand your slide deck just like any other PDF.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, things for like science fair and just thinking about logistics of like even like a 30-day plan for like this big project I have an idea for, like help me start to visualize it. It's just a great starting point. And we're going to come back in about 90 seconds. All right, start to wrap up with your chatbot conversation. And I wanted to just spend a few minutes showing you Google Translate because I think it's such a powerful tool that everybody could benefit from. And somebody already asked a question like, how much can we trust it? Well, for any external or family communications, official communications, please use our DPS translation services. And you can access that by clicking the hyperlink here. It'll take you right to the translation services. They're so fast and they're amazing. But if there's like your day-to-day lessons that you want to translate, I 10 out of 10 recommend using a tool like Google Translate. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just search for Google Translate. And I'm not going to use this box that comes up right here, but instead I'm going to click into the actual site. And I can see I have a lot of different options for how I can engage in translation. I can just physically copy and paste in text or type it in here. I can upload an image. So if you have a screenshot or like an infographic, you can use images. You can upload documents like docs or PDFs or PowerPoints, and you can also just give links to websites. But what I'm going to do is translate our slides for today. And I'm going to, I already downloaded the slide deck. And if you didn't see this earlier, let me show you how to download a slide deck. In Google Slides, if you click File, you can click Download and PDF. And then once you have it downloaded, you can click Browse Files, select that file. And I want it to translate. Oh, it's too large for me, so I'll do this one. I want it to translate into Spanish, but there's, if you hit this drop down right here with the caret, you have plenty of languages to choose from. But I'm going to click Spanish, and I'm going to click the button Translate. And then in a separate PDF document, it will pop up with your translations. So I'm going to click this Open Translation. And now I have a PDF version of that curriculum resource that I uploaded. And it's also super helpful for students. When I was working with some students in the STEM lab at Lake with Rob Rossini, he had kiddos that only spoke Arabic. So I would use my phone Google Translate device or just have a Chromebook open and use the microphone feature to live translate back and forth with the students. And then I could even have it read out loud to them. And so they're able to hear the translation in the moment because they're so inundated with text translations throughout the day. So just being able to use that microphone feature for them and me, they had the site up on their Chromebook and I used mine and we just went back and forth with each other. So highly recommend just starting to dip your toes into Google Translate and happy to explore that more throughout the PDU, but really just wanted to give you a quick overview of that. Because it's going to be so useful for so many of our learners. All right, we're going to start wrapping up and we're going to start thinking about how you want to use AI personally for your profession. We had a few of you fill out the survey and a lot of you already are using AI. So some of you are using it to create do now activities or to brainstorm ideas for projects, to give exemplars for essays. And people even use like common misconception exemplars and give feedback for those. How to extend units. Creating rubrics, creating lesson plan ideas, generating vocab lists, translation into Farsi or Spanish. I really like someone in saying just giving me ideas to jumpstart me when I'm stuck. So there's just so many ways you are already using AI, but also in our handbook, we have a few different recommendations for where to get started if you don't know where to get started. So there's like 4 big buckets we kind of break down using AI as an educator. And the first one is to enhance engagement. So Adrian talked about forming student groups and giving roles. You can gamify really everything and personalize it. You can figure out what your students' assets are and leverage them and co-constructing a unit with them. And you can just reduce student wait time and real-time feedback with problem-solving chatbots. You can also be more efficient in your tasks through email generation, getting ideas for projects. I was an IB teacher and everything was project-based learning, and I loved it, but it took forever. It took me weeks to come up with the perfect unit, and now it can do it in seconds. Quick checks for understanding, scripting out feedback for student essays, generating reports on data and telling you what next steps to make based on like, hey, my students scored this on the interim for these indicators. What should I do tomorrow? You can increase inclusion. You can adapt to students' diverse funds of knowledge. We had a high school teacher with an 11th grade kiddo that had an IEP where he can only answer yes, no questions. And she was able to adapt every lesson for that kiddo moving forward with AI. Translation, differentiating for IEPs and language goals, learning styles. You can even audit your own curriculum and say, like, what am I missing here based on what you know about my students? And last, you can professionally prosper. You can get feedback on your own teaching instead of having to wait for an observation. You can plug in LEAP evaluator indicators if you're really struggling with I3, and you can like design a lesson to enhance your I3 instruction. You can find your skill gaps. You can engage with live coaching. You can simulate how a lesson might go with students. And you can even curate content and say, I want to teach about this. What are some websites I can use? So I want to give you a moment. Enter into the chat box. What's something you want to use AI for? Anything that really jumps out to you in terms of these indicators, or maybe you have some secret third thing that you want to use AI for in your professional life. Let's just take a moment and think about like how you want to use AI. Ooh, creating a unit on AI with PBL. That is very meta. Using AI to create an AI unit. I love it. And feel free, if you want to come over the mic and share, please feel free to do so. Yes, CLOs. Amazing. Yeah, I feel like for TCL alone, like this can like help you infuse TCL into every lesson instead of having to do like only 20 minutes a day of TCL. It's like in all your lessons now. Ooh, newsletters. Oh, I used to spend so much time just thinking about what to put in a newsletter. Awesome. Some people are just using it for everything. That's fine. Amazing, amazing. Well, awesome. Just wanted to wrap up with some basic, if anybody has any Q&A, I'm just going to check the doc real quick. First is it a platform DPS is paying for? Luke answered that in the chat. Yes, we are temporarily paying for it through the winter, but we are going to try to finagle some more free access in the future. But for now, you're good. And like if we lose premium access, you don't lose much accessibility in the tool itself. You'll be able to navigate the basic tool. Yeah, I don't know if you can trust Dari translations. I'm not a Dari expert, and probably neither is Magic School. So maybe like talk to whoever speaks Dari. How do you cite your use of AI? You can check that out in our handbook, but I'm also going to talk about it in our next module. I love that. You can make Google Forms and quizzes in Magic School. Just prompt and ask for it, but you have to manually copy and paste it. And personal finance. Yes, we will look at student-facing chatbots in Module 3. And yes, students are able to use the microphone, talk back and forth with it. It will speak back to them. So even littles are able to engage with AI. Okay. All right, so we have just a few next steps for our PDU. I want to make sure you get out of here on time, but I will stick around and answer any questions if you have them. I'm opening up module 4 after this live session, and we're just wrapping up, or sorry, I'm opening up step 4 for module 1 after this session. And you're just going to engage in a discussion with everybody. Hey, I want you to do a little bit of reading and then say, what are you going to use AI for? The more you hear about how other teachers are using it, the more you're going to see examples and just have more inspiration. So what we're going to have for our first discussion post is just, how do you want to use AI? And we will be opening up the module 2 on September 9th. Our live session for that is September 23rd. And I will get back to you about the October 14th date and our potential in-person optional session if you're looking for a little extra support. But we're just going to do a quick intentional close. Please just put one word in the chat to describe your reaction towards integrating AI into your professional practice. One word, please, because we're going to do a word cloud because it's 2014, and I still think word clouds are cool, despite what everybody says. So put one word that describes your reaction to AI in the chat bot. I love it. I love it. I love it. Amazing. Terminator. So cool. So cool. So cool. Good vibes, guys. Good vibes. Okay. A few extra pieces of information as you're, please still put your one word in the chat if you haven't done so already. We have a few other like ed tech opportunities for learning. First, we have Computer Science Week coming December 9th through 13th. We have thousands of kids every year participate in our DPS Week of Computer Science, and AI can be part of that. AI is computer science. So if you want to think of a lesson to just introduce to kids in AI, that's a perfect week to do that. And we also have an opportunity for Ed Tech Champions, which means you can receive extra duty pay. If you want to start piloting these AI things in your classroom, you can get extra duty pay for designing a lesson, implementing it, and then bringing that learning to your colleagues and designing some professional learnings, whether it's for a department, for a grade level, for whole school. Just taking what you're learning and intentionally having time to get paid and make quality instructional materials, because when you guys hear from each other, it's more powerful than hearing from us. If you're interested, you can click apply here. It's a quick Google form. And we're really excited to get that started in the middle of September. And that is all I have.